The massive chamber stretched high above like a cathedral made of crystal and metal. Thousands of alien beings filled the curved seats that rose in tiers around the central floor. Their voices created a low hum that echoed off the walls. Some had scales that glittered under the bright lights. Others had fur or skin that changed colors. A few floated in tanks of liquid, their tentacles moving slowly. At the center of it all stood a single human. Ambassador Sarah Chen wore her best, diplomatic uniform, but it looked plain next to the elaborate robes and ornaments of the alien council members. Her hands were steady, but inside her chest, her heart beat fast. She had been standing there for 3 hours while the aliens debated humanity's fate. The council speaker was a tall being with 4 arms and skin like polished stone. Ancient symbols glowed on his forehead as he raised one hand for silence. The chamber fell quiet, except for the soft bubbling from the liquid tanks. "The Galactic Council has reached its decision," the speaker announced. His voice was deep and carried to every corner of the vast room. "The species known as humans stands, accused of aggressive expansion into sacred breeding worlds. They have violated the ancient laws that have kept peace in our galaxy for 10,000 years. Sarah stepped forward. "Honored Council, we have explained this already. We did not know those worlds were claimed. We found no signs of life. We followed all scanning protocols before establishing our colonies. A creature that looked like a giant insect with jeweled wings clicked its mandibles. Ignorance is no excuse. The breeding cycles of the Zelnar take 500 of your years. You could not detect them in their dormant phase." "We would have left immediately if told," Sarah said, her voice echoing in the chamber. "We offered to relocate our people when we learned of the Zelnar claims." "Too late," hissed a snake-like being whose coils filled an entire section of seating. "The damage is done. Your kind breeds too fast and spreads too quickly. You are a threat to the natural order." Sarah felt her anger rising but kept her voice calm. "We have been part of this council for 50 years. We have followed your laws. We have shared our technology and culture. We ask only for understanding." The speaker's 4 eyes focused on her. "Humanity has been useful, yes. Your medical knowledge helped cure the Red Death that plagued 3 star systems. Your agricultural methods feed worlds that once starved. But usefulness does not excuse your crimes." "What crimes?" Sarah's voice grew louder despite her efforts to stay calm. "We have hurt no one. We have started no wars. We have honored every treaty." A floating brain in a glass sphere pulsed with yellow light. "You exist," it said in a voice like wind through metal. "Your very existence threatens the balance. In 50 years, you have spread to 200 worlds. In 50 more, you will claim 2,000. In time, you will outnumber us all." "That is not a crime," Sarah protested. "That is life. That is growth. That is what species do." "Not in our galaxy," the speaker said firmly. "Order must be maintained. The strong must guide the weak. The ancient must rule the young. You upset this balance." Sarah looked around the chamber at the thousands of alien faces watching her. Some seemed sad. Others appeared angry. A few looked hungry, as if they wanted to see what would happen next. None looked sympathetic. "What is your sentence?" she asked quietly. The speaker stood to his full height of nearly 3 meters. The symbols on his forehead blazed brighter. "For the crime of aggressive expansion and violation of sacred worlds, humanity will be contained. Your outer colonies will be sterilized. Your core worlds will be monitored. Your expansion will end." Sarah's blood turned to ice. "Sterilized? You mean destroyed?" "The council is merciful," the snake being hissed. "We could eliminate your entire species. Instead, we will only remove your ability to spread further. 37 agricultural colonies will be targeted for orbital bombardment. The populations there will serve as an example. Those are civilian populations, Sarah shouted, her diplomatic training finally breaking. Families, children, farmers and teachers and artists. They have done nothing wrong. They exist where they should not, the floating brain said coldly. They will exist no longer. Sarah's hands shook as the full horror hit her. 37 colonies, each one home to millions of people. Her sister lived on New Kansas with her children. Her uncle managed the wheat farms on Harvest Moon. Friends, relatives, innocent people who had never even seen an alien. Please, she whispered, I beg you. Punish Earth if you must. Punish our government, but spare the colonies. They are just trying to live their lives. The decision is final, the speaker announced. Enforcement fleets will move to execute this sentence immediately. You have one cycle to prepare your people. 1 day, Sarah's voice cracked. You give us 1 day to evacuate 37 worlds? We give you 1 day to say goodbye, the insect creature clicked. No evacuation will be permitted. The lesson must be clear. Sarah felt the weight of billions of lives pressing down on her shoulders. She thought of her sister's children laughing as they played in the golden fields of New Kansas. She thought of the scientists on Darwin Station who spent their days cataloging harmless plant life. She thought of the artists on Rainbow World who created beautiful sculptures from colored crystal. All of them would be dead in 24 hours. You call this justice? She asked, tears streaming down her face. We call this necessity, the speaker replied without emotion. As the council members began to file out of the chamber, Sarah stood alone on the central floor. High above her, hidden in the complex electronics that controlled the chamber's systems, a small device that looked like a standard translation unit began to transmit. It sent a single coded message on a frequency that had not been used for centuries. The message was simple. Carthage protocol activated. Come home. The signal traveled faster than light through subspace channels that the Galactic Council had never discovered. It passed through empty star systems and around black holes. It crossed the vast distances between galaxies where no civilized species had ever dared to venture. And in the cold darkness between the stars, ancient sensors detected the signal and began to wake sleeping giants. Sarah Chen did not know about the message. She did not know about the hidden protocols built into every human device. She did not know that her people's greatest secret was about to save them all. She only knew that she had failed and that billions of innocent people would die because of it. But as she walked slowly out of the chamber, her tears mixing with the salt of determination, she made herself a promise. Somehow, some way, humanity would survive this. They would remember who had tried to destroy them. And someday, when they were strong enough, they would make sure it never happened again. The Galactic Council had made their choice. Soon, they would learn that humanity had choices too. In the empty space between galaxies, where no star had shone for billions of years, something stirred in the darkness. The void here was so complete that even light from distant galaxy clusters took millions of years to cross it. It was a place where civilized species believed nothing could survive. They were wrong. Hidden in the shadow of a massive dark matter formation, structures the size of small moons began to pulse with energy. They had been waiting here for 300 years, patient as stones, cold as the space around them. But now, ancient computers detected a signal that made everything change. Admiral Chen Li was examining crop reports from Hydroponics Bay 7 when the alert chimed through her ship. She looked up from her datapad, her weathered face showing concern. In 3 centuries of exile, emergency alerts were rare. Her people had learned to live quietly in the dark. Admiral to the bridge, her communication officer's voice carried through the ship. Priority Alpha message received. Chen Li moved quickly through the corridors of the massive vessel. The ship was old, but well-maintained, its hull scarred by centuries of meteor impacts and cosmic radiation. Crew members nodded respectfully as she passed. Most were great-grandchildren of the original colonists who had built this floating city in the void. The bridge was a cathedral of screens and control panels. Officers worked quietly at their stations, their faces lit by the glow of displays, showing sensor readings from across their hidden fleet. Through the main view screen, Chen Li could see the running lights of other ships stretching away into the distance, like stars in a constellation. "Report," she said as she took her command. Chair Captain Morgan, her first officer, turned from the communications station. His family had served on the bridge for 6 generations. "We received a Carthage protocol signal, Admiral. Authentication codes confirmed. It came from the Milky Way galaxy." Chen Li felt her heart skip a beat. The Carthage protocol was the one. Signal they had hoped never to receive. It meant their old home was in deadly danger. "How long since the signal was sent?" she asked. "Approximately 18 hours, Admiral. The message was brief. Just the activation code and coordinates." Chen Li closed her eyes for a moment. 18 hours ago, something had threatened Earth badly enough to trigger the most secret protocol in human space. She thought of the people they had left behind 3 centuries ago, the cousins and friends who had stayed in the Milky Way while her group pushed deeper into the unknown. "Sound general quarters," she ordered. "All ship commanders, to report to the flagship immediately. Begin fleet activation procedures." Around them, the bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency. Alarms sounded throughout the ship, not the harsh warnings of emergency, but the steady tones that meant, "Prepare for action." Chen Li had drilled her people for this moment their entire lives. Now, it was real. Within an hour, the conference room aboard the flagship filled with the commanders of humanity's secret fleet. They came from ships with names like New Hope, Distant Thunder, and Earth's Promise. Men and women who had spent their lives preparing for a day they hoped would never come. Commander Sarah Okafor spoke first. Her ship carried the fleet's main production facilities. "Admiral, current fleet status, 437. Capital ships operational, each carrying full fighter complements. Industrial capacity at maximum. Weapon systems charged and ready." "Population status?" Chen Li asked. 43 million souls across the fleet, Admiral, all trained in military operations. We've maintained full combat readiness as ordered." Chen Li nodded. When her ancestors had left the Milky Way, they had done so with a specific mission. Earth's leaders knew that humanity's rapid expansion would eventually cause problems with older galactic civilizations. They needed insurance. They needed a hidden strength that could return if the worst happened. "Technology status?" she asked. "Commander Park, whose ships carried their research and development facilities. We've made significant advances, Admiral. 3 centuries of isolation forced us to innovate or die. Our ships are equipped with phase variance drives, quantum disruption weapons, and adaptive armor systems. Nothing the old galaxy has seen before. And they will not see us coming," added Commander Torres from the Stealth Division. "Our new hulls are invisible to every scanning technology we know about. We can approach any target undetected." Chen Li stood and activated the main display. It showed a 3-dimensional map of the local galaxy cluster, with their current position marked by a small blue dot. Far away, almost at the edge of the display, a red dot showed the location of the Milky Way. "The signal came from Earth's embassy on the Galactic Council world," she said. "Someone there activated the protocol. That means our people are facing extinction-level threat." The room fell silent. These commanders had all been born in the void between galaxies. They had never seen Earth's blue skies or breathed natural air. But they had been raised on stories of their homeland. They knew why their grandparents had sacrificed everything to build this hidden fleet. "What are our orders, Admiral?" Commander Okafor asked quietly. Chen Li looked around the room at the faces of her officers. They were the children of exiles, trained from birth to be humanity's secret weapon. Their ships were more advanced than anything in the Milky Way. Their crews were hardened by generations of survival in the harshest environment imaginable. "We go home," she said simply. "We find out who threatened our people, and we make sure they never threaten anyone again." Commander Park leaned forward. "Admiral, the journey will take 6 months even with our fastest drives. Whatever is happening on Earth will be over by the time we arrive," Chen Li finished. "But that does not matter. If our people are dead, we will avenge them. If they are enslaved, we will free them. If they survive, we will make sure they stay safe." She touched a control, and the display zoomed in on the Milky Way. The spiral arms looked beautiful and peaceful from this distance. Soon they would see how peaceful it really was. "Begin fleet movement in 12 hours, she ordered. "All ships to battle readiness. Institute communication blackout. From this moment until we reach Earth space, we are ghosts." As the commanders filed out to prepare their ships, Chen Li remained alone in the conference room. She looked at the star map showing their long journey home. Her great-grandmother had been one of the original colonists who built the first ships in this fleet. She had died never knowing if Earth was safe. Now it was Chen Li's turn to carry that burden. Through the view screen, she could see the running lights of the fleet beginning to move. Hundreds of massive ships slowly turned toward their distant home. They had been away for 3 centuries. They had learned to survive in the void where nothing should live. They had built weapons that could reshape reality itself, and now someone had made the mistake of threatening their family. The fleet began its long journey home, sliding silently through the darkness between galaxies. Behind them, they left empty space. Ahead of them lay a reckoning that would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. The forgotten children of Earth were coming home. The first sign of something wrong came from Patrol Squadron Theta 7. They were orbiting the human colony of New Kansas when their communications simply stopped. Fleet Commander Zixtal waited for 6 hours before sending another squadron to investigate. Squadron. Beta 3 found empty space where Theta 7 should have been. No debris, no energy signatures, no trace that 12 ships and 3,000 crew members had ever existed. The only evidence was a faint sensor echo that the ship computers could not identify. "Impossible," Zixtal muttered, his scaled hands dancing over the control panels of his flagship. As a member of the Korthak species, he had served in the Galactic Council's fleet for 400 years. He had never seen anything like this. The massive Council dreadnought Eternal Order hung in space above New Kansas like a metal moon. Below them, the human colony burned. Orbital bombardment had turned the wheat fields into smoking craters. The small cities were reduced to rubble, but the agricultural world had been lightly defended. Destroying it should have been simple. "Report from Squadron Gamma 9, his communications officer announced. The young Falari's fur changed from blue to worried yellow. "They report strange sensor readings near the asteroid field." "What kind of readings?" "Ships, Commander, but not like any in our databases." Zixtal's tail lashed with irritation. "Show me." The main screen flickered to life, showing the tactical display of the asteroid field near New Kansas. Red dots marked the positions of Council ships. Green blips showed asteroids and space debris, but there were also purple contacts that seemed to appear and disappear without warning. "Sensor ghosts," Zixtal decided. The destruction of the colony must be interfering with our equipment. But even as he said it, he did not believe it. In 4 centuries of service, he had learned to trust his instincts. Something was hunting his ships. On the other side of the system, Captain Yila of Squadron Gamma 9 watched her sensor screens with growing unease. The Silurian officer had 6 eyes that could see across multiple light spectrums. Right now, all 6 were focused on something that should not exist. "Contact bearing 27 Mark 4, her sensor operator reported. "Range, 5,000 kilometers. It appears to be a ship, but what? "But it's not there, Captain. Visual shows empty space. Gravitational sensors detect no mass. Energy readings are impossible. Captain Yilla had earned her rank by being careful. She ordered her squadron to battle stations and moved to investigate. As they approached the mysterious contact, her ships spread into attack formation. The enemy revealed itself without warning. One moment, Yilla was looking at empty space. The next, a ship unlike anything she had ever seen materialized directly ahead of them. It was sleek and dark, with lines that seemed to flow like water. No lights showed on its hull, no energy signatures registered on her sensors. But it was there, solid and real, hanging in space like a predator. "All ships open fire," Yilla commanded. Her squadron unleashed everything they had. Particle beams, plasma cannons, and quantum torpedoes lit up the darkness. The weapons struck the mysterious ship and simply passed through it as if it were made of smoke. The enemy ship began to move. It flowed between Yilla's vessels like liquid shadow, completely ignoring their attacks. As it passed each council ship, systems began to fail, engines went dead, weapons powered down. Life support flickered. "We're being boarded!" someone screamed over the communications channel. But there were no boarding pods, no airlocks being breached. The enemy ship had not even touched them. Yet somehow, council crew members throughout the squadron began reporting intruders in their corridors. Captain Yilla drew her sidearm as her bridge door opened. 3 figures walked in wearing environmental suits that looked nothing like any technology she knew. Their faces were hidden behind reflective visors, but their movements were unmistakably human. "Impossible," she whispered. "Humans don't have this technology." One of the figures removed its helmet, revealing a young human woman with short black hair and calm eyes. She looked around the bridge with professional interest. "You're right," the woman said in perfect galactic standard. "We didn't have this technology. We had to build it." "Who are you?" Yilla demanded, keeping her weapon trained on the intruder. "Resistance Cell Alpha 7, the woman replied. "We've been waiting for you to attack our worlds. We've been preparing." "There is no human resistance," Yilla protested. "Your species lacks the technology for stealth ships or phase generators." The human woman smiled sadly. "Our species lacks many things, Captain. We lack the age of your civilizations. We lack your vast empires. We lack your centuries of peace and stability." She gestured around the disabled bridge where council crew members stood frozen by some kind of stasis field. "But we don't lack determination, and we don't lack the ability to learn." On every council ship in the system, similar scenes were playing out. Human teams appeared as if from nowhere, moving through solid bulkheads and disabled defense systems. They carried weapons that phased in and out of reality. They wore armor that bent light around it. Fleet Commander Zixtal watched his fleet fall apart around him. Ship after ship went dark as these impossible humans took control. His 400-year career had not prepared him for an enemy that could walk through walls and disappear from sensors. "Sir," his communications officer shouted, "I'm receiving a transmission. It's coming from everywhere at once." "Put it through." A human voice filled the bridge, speaking in calm, measured tones. "Attention, Council Fleet. This is Colonel Martinez of the Earth Defense Network. You have attacked civilian populations in violation of galactic law. You will power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded." Zixtal activated his own communications. "This is Fleet Commander Zixtal of the Galactic Council Enforcement Division. You are in violation of Council orders. Surrender immediately or face the consequences." "Commander," the human voice replied, "you just destroyed a world full of farmers and their families. The only consequences here will be faced by you." Around his flagship, the mysterious human ships began to decloak. They appeared one by one like stars coming out at night. Dozens of them, then hundreds, each one impossible by everything he knew about human technology. "Where did they come from?" he whispered. On his sensors, more contacts were appearing throughout. The system, These were larger ships moving with purpose toward his fleet. They had been there all along, hidden by technology that made them invisible to every scanning device the Council possessed. Zixtal realized with growing horror that his fleet had not been attacking a defenseless human colony. They had flown directly into a trap. The humans had been waiting for them. Somehow they had known the attack was coming, and they had prepared a welcome that would haunt his nightmares for the rest of his very short life. "All ships," he commanded, his voice breaking with fear. "Emergency retreat. Full power to engines. Get us out of here." But his ships were already trapped. Human vessels surrounded them on all sides, appearing and disappearing like ghosts. And, from somewhere in the darkness, more signals were coming. Signals that spoke of human fleets moving toward other Council targets throughout the galaxy. The Galactic Council had awakened something they did not understand. They had poked a sleeping giant that had spent centuries learning how to fight back, and now that giant was very, very angry. The first the galaxy knew of humanity's return was when the stars themselves began to disappear. High Chancellor Morvek was reviewing reports of the mysterious attacks on Council fleets when his aide rushed into his chambers. The ancient Vorthak leader had ruled the Council for 600 years. His crystalline body pulsed with the slow, steady light that indicated deep thought. "Chancellor," the aide said, his voice shaking, "the Rigel system, it's gone." Morvek's light flickered faster. "Explain." "The entire star system, sir. Our monitoring. Stations detected massive energy readings, then nothing. When we sent a probe to investigate, it found empty space. No planets, no asteroids, no star, just vacuum where the system used to be." The Chancellor's ancient mind processed this information slowly. Rigel was home to the Council's primary military academy. 3 billion beings lived there. The star itself was stable, with millions of years of life remaining. Equipment malfunction, he decided. Stars do not simply vanish. But even as he spoke, more reports arrived. The Centauri system had gone dark. The Vega colonies were not responding to communications. Alpha Prime, the heavily defended fortress world that protected the Council's core systems, had been found as empty as a hollow shell. "Sir," the aide whispered, "there's something else. Before each system went dark, they all reported the same thing. Ships. Thousands of them. Ships like nothing in our databases." Morvek stood from his crystal throne, his massive form casting rainbow patterns on the chamber walls. "Show me." The main display activated, showing a map of known space. Red dots marked the locations of vanished systems. As they watched, more dots appeared. The pattern was clear. Something was moving through Council space in a straight line toward the capital world. "How long until they reach us?" Morvek asked. "At their current rate of advance, 12 hours, Chancellor." Morvek had survived 6 centuries by being practical. "Alert the home fleet, all available ships to defensive positions around the capital. Contact our allies. Tell them the Council requires immediate assistance." But his orders were already too late. Admiral Chen Li stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching the tactical display with grim satisfaction. Around her, the largest fleet in human history hung in space like a metal constellation. 400 ships, each one larger than anything the Council possessed. Each one armed with weapons that could reshape reality itself. "Report," she commanded. "Captain," Kim stepped forward. "All objectives secured, Admiral. Council resistance was minimal. Their technology is centuries behind ours." "Casualties?" "Minimal on our side. We disabled their fleets rather than destroying them where possible. But their attacks on our colonies..." Kim's voice hardened. "New Kansas is gone, Admiral. New Texas, Harvest Moon. All the agricultural worlds. Billions dead." Chen Li closed her eyes for a moment. She had expected this. The Carthage Protocol would not have been activated unless the threat was existential. But knowing billions of her people had died while she traveled home made her heart heavy with grief and rage. "And now?" she asked quietly. "Now we finish this," Kim replied. "The council capital is directly ahead. Their remaining fleets are in defensive positions around the planet. They're waiting for us." Chen-Li opened her eyes and looked at the view screen. Ahead of them, the jeweled world that had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years hung in space like a blue and green pearl. Around it, the Council's home fleet waited in battle formation, thousands of ships representing dozens of species, all united in their determination to stop humanity's advance. "Open a channel," Chen-Li commanded. "Broadcast on all frequencies." The communications officer nodded. "Channel open, Admiral." Chen-Li stepped forward so that the ship's cameras could capture her image. She knew that her words would be heard. Across the galaxy, on every world and every ship. History would remember this moment. "I am Admiral Chen-Li of the Human Colonial Defense Force," she began, her voice calm and steady. 3 days ago, the Galactic Council authorized the genocide of billions of innocent human beings. They destroyed our agricultural colonies. They murdered our farmers, our teachers, our children. She paused, letting her words sink in across the galaxy. The Council believed humanity was weak. They believed we were primitive. They believed we would submit to their justice without question. Around her, the bridge crew worked quietly at their stations. Through the view screen, she could see the Council fleet moving into attack formation. "They were wrong," Chen-Li continued. "Humanity has children they never knew about. We have been preparing for this day for 3 centuries. We have built ships that can phase through matter. We have weapons that can rewrite the laws of physics. We have soldiers who can walk through walls and disappear from sensors." The Council fleet began to advance. Thousands of ships moving in perfect formation toward the human armada. "But more than that," Chen-Li said, her voice growing stronger, "we have something the Council has forgotten. We have the determination of a species that refuses to die quietly. We have the anger of parents whose children have been murdered. And we have the promise that we made to ourselves in the dark between the stars." She gestured to the advancing enemy fleet. That promise was simple. Never again. Never again would humanity kneel before those who think themselves our betters. Never again would we allow bullies to destroy the innocent. Never again would we fail to protect our own. The first Council ships opened fire. Beams of energy lashed out across space toward the human fleet. The attack struck the lead human vessels and simply passed through them as if they were made of light. "Today," Chen-Li announced, "the age of Council rule ends. Today, the galaxy learns what happens when you threaten humanity's children. Today, we teach you that some species cannot be broken." She turned to her tactical officer. "All ships, phase shift to combat mode. Begin the reckoning." Around the human fleet, reality itself began to bend. The ships became partially solid, existing in multiple dimensions at once. They moved through the Council formations like ghosts, completely immune to enemy fire. As they passed each Council vessel, weapons of impossible design reached out and disabled engines, weapons, and life support systems. The Council fleet had prepared for a battle. Instead, they found themselves trapped in a demonstration of technology so advanced it seemed like magic. Ship after ship went dark as human forces swept through their formations without taking a single hit. High Chancellor Morvek watched from his command center as his fleet was systematically destroyed. These human ships moved like living things, flowing around his formations and striking with surgical precision. His weapons could not touch them. His shields provided no protection. "How?" he whispered. "How did they develop such technology?" Admiral Chen-Li's voice answered him from the communications system. "You made us, Chancellor. When you forced us into the darkness between galaxies, you taught us to evolve or die. We chose to evolve." Through his view screen, Morvek could see human ships approaching his command station. They moved without haste, confident in their overwhelming superiority. "What do you want?" he asked. "Justice," Chen Li replied. "For our dead, for our children, for every human being you murdered because you thought we were too weak to stop you." As the human fleet surrounded the council capital, beings across the galaxy watched in stunned silence. The ancient order that had ruled for 10 millennia was falling in a single day. The species they had dismissed as primitive had returned as conquerors, but humanity's reckoning had only just begun. The great tribunal chamber looked different now. The crystal walls still stretched high above, but the seats that had once held the proud council members were now filled with a very different audience. Representatives from hundreds of species sat quietly, waiting to see what justice would look like when dispensed by humans. Admiral Chen Li walked across the central floor where Ambassador Sarah Chen had stood just 1 week earlier. The irony was not lost on her that they shared a name, though they had never met. Sarah Chen was safe now, rescued from the council prison where they had thrown her after the genocide began. Behind Admiral Chen Li, flanked by human guards, sat the surviving members of the Galactic Council. High Chancellor Morvek's crystalline form was dim with defeat. The insect creature who had dismissed human concerns now clicked its mandibles nervously. The snake being that had called for humanity's destruction coiled in on itself with fear. "The trial is now in session," Chen Li announced, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast chamber. "But this will not be the same kind of trial you held for humanity." She gestured to the assembled crowd of galactic representatives. "You are all here by choice. You may leave at any time. You may speak freely. You may question everything we do. This is not a court of predetermined outcomes." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Many species had never experienced such openness in legal proceedings. "The charges are simple," Chen Li continued. "Genocide. The systematic murder of 37 human colonies containing 4 billion innocent people. The destruction of agricultural worlds that fed not just humans, but dozens of other species throughout the galaxy." High Chancellor Morvek's light pulsed weakly. "We acted within our authority as established by 10,000 years of precedent." "Yes," Chen Li agreed. "And that is part of the problem." She activated a holographic display showing the galactic map. Different colors marked the territories of various species, with clear hierarchies showing who ruled whom. For 10 millennia, this galaxy has been ruled by the principle that might makes right. The oldest species dominated the youngest. The strongest imposed their will on the weakest. Species were ranked by age, by power, by their ability to enforce their desires on others. The display shifted, showing the agricultural colonies that had been destroyed. Images of burning cities and poisoned fields filled the air above the chamber. Under this system, genocide was legal as long as the right authorities ordered it. Entire civilizations could be wiped out if they inconvenienced their betters. Justice was whatever the powerful said it was. A small mammalian delegate from the Outer Rim stood up. "What would you have us do instead? Chaos? Anarchy? Without hierarchy, without order, the galaxy would tear itself apart." Chen Li smiled sadly. "You assume that order requires oppression, that peace requires submission, that justice requires inequality." She gestured, and the display changed again. This time it showed Earth's home system, where human and alien ships worked together to rebuild the destroyed colonies. There is another way. We call it equality. Every species, regardless of age or power, has the same rights, the same voice, the same protection under the law. The snake being that had advocated for humanity's destruction raised its head. "Impossible. The young species lack wisdom. They would make poor decisions that harm everyone." "Perhaps," Chen Li acknowledged, "but they would be their decisions to make. And if they fail, they would learn from their failures. Growth comes from freedom, not from submission." She walked closer to the council members. You claim that your system brought peace. But was it really peace? Or was it just the silence of the oppressed? You claim your system was just, but was it really justice or just the will of the powerful? High Chancellor Morvek's form flickered brighter. And what of you? You conquered our fleets. You destroyed our defenses. You forced your way here with overwhelming violence. How is that different from what we did? Chen Li stopped directly in front of him. Because we're not keeping it. The chamber fell completely silent. We didn't come here to rule you, she continued. We came here to stop you from murdering innocent people. Now that we've done that, we have no desire to become the new council. She turned to address the entire chamber. Humanity will not replace your government. We will not impose our laws on your worlds. We will not demand tribute or submission or obedience. Then what do you want? Asked a delegate from the crystalline worlds. We want to go home, Chen Li said simply. We want to rebuild our colonies. We want to live in peace. And we want to make sure that what happened to us never happens to anyone else. She activated the display again, showing a new map of the galaxy. This one had no hierarchies, no ruling species, no subjugated worlds. We propose a new kind of galactic organization. Not a council of rulers, but a congress of equals. Every species gets one vote regardless of their age or power. Decisions are made by majority rule, with protections for minority rights. And if a species refuses to join, asked the insect delegate. Then they don't join, Chen Li replied. Membership is voluntary. But those who do join agree to certain basic principles: no genocide, no slavery, no conquest of other members. Disputes are settled by negotiation, not force. High Chancellor Morvek's light dimmed further. You would dismantle 10,000 years of civilization for this experiment? Your civilization, Chen Li corrected, was built on the bones of species too, weak to defend themselves. Yes, we would dismantle that. Gladly, she gestured to the human guards flanking the council members. But we will not execute you for your crimes. You will be imprisoned, yes. Your authority will be removed. But you will live. You will have the chance to see if our way works better than yours. Over the following days, delegates from across the galaxy debated humanity's proposal. Some species, particularly those who had been oppressed under the old system, embraced it immediately. Others, who had benefited from the hierarchical structure, resisted. But as word spread of humanity's offer, equality instead of dominance, cooperation instead of submission, more and more worlds chose to join the new Galactic Congress. Ambassador. Sarah Chen, fully recovered from her ordeal, found herself working alongside former enemies to draft the new charter. The snake being who had advocated for humanity's destruction now helped write laws protecting agricultural worlds. The insect delegate that had dismissed human concerns became an advocate for rapid response to humanitarian crises. 6 months later, Admiral Chen Li stood on the observation deck of her flagship, watching as construction began on New Geneva Station. The massive structure would serve as the headquarters of the Galactic Congress, built in neutral space equidistant from all member worlds. Captain Kim joined her at the viewport. The first congressional session begins next week. 147 species have agreed to join so far. And the others? Chen Li asked. Watching, waiting to see if this actually works. A few are actively hostile, but they're keeping to their own territories. Chen Li nodded. She had not expected unanimous acceptance. Change was always difficult, especially for those who had benefited from the old ways. Admiral, Kim said quietly. There's something else. The deep space sensors have detected signals from beyond the galactic rim. Other human fleets responding to the Carthage Protocol. Chen Li smiled. How many? At least 6 separate groups. Fleets that went even deeper into the void than we did. They'll arrive over the next year. Good, Chen Li said. The galaxy is about to get much more interesting. Through the viewport, she could see ships from dozens of species working together to build the new station. Former enemies labored side by side, united in the hope that they could create something better than what had come before. It would not be easy. There would be setbacks, conflicts, and failures. But for the first time in 10,000 years, the galaxy had the chance to try something new, the chance to build a civilization based on equality rather than oppression. And at the heart of it all were the children of Earth, the species that had been dismissed as too primitive to matter. They had returned from the darkness between the stars with a simple message. Everyone deserved a voice, everyone deserved protection, and everyone deserved the chance to reach for the stars. The age of the Galactic Council was over. The age of the Galactic Congress had begun, and humanity, after 3 centuries in exile, was finally home.